How's it going, guys? Stay Weird 1993 here, or of course, if you're following us up on YouTube, Stay Weird 1993 Vlogs. Welcome back. We were going to do some Edo tonight, however, we've had some technical issues with Lord Arbiter. And so now we're going to do some more Halo, so we're going to shoot people in the face and get salty when we get BR comboed, but you know. It's fine. I'm gonna include Halo Reach in the multiplayer because I've just got I'm in the mood to play a bit of both 3 and Reach. What I would like to see is, obviously, I know it's not on the PC yet, but you know, including things like Halo 4 and 5 multiplayer.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably won't because obviously we're now in the polish phase of Infinite's development cycle,
Yeah.
which means now the game works. They want to make it look as pretty as possible before launch.
See, when you were going, as see earlier today, but way before you start streaming,
Hmm.
I was thinking to myself like today, oh, I hope he's managed to watch that SpongeBob anime episode.
It's up my street because it basically what it does is it combines SpongeBob with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Practically, I felt like I was watching an episode of JoJo, but with a SpongeBob DLC.
I've seen opening
Yeah,
where he kisses Sandy.
I was like, what the hell am I watching? I was watching it like, am I having a stroke? Is this real?
And like Patrick's actually really wise and not stupid.
Yeah, he's like a wise old samurai. I was like, why is Patrick literally like some kind of like mid Japanese period shogun of some kind? Just like he's so pensive and serious. I was like, what the fuck am I watching? It's great. Like it I like the fact that they made Patrick into some kind of wise, sort of almost like Uncle Iroh character from Avatar.
Do you see Mr. Krabs at the end? In the end, bit when he's looking at the money hearts in his eyes.
Yeah. What I really liked was the really dramatic scene at the start with SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs. To be honest,
Oh yeah.
I don't know why it just tickled me. Oh, we're playing some Reach on heavies. This will be fun.
Someone else, for that Road to C2 Road mech.
Ah,
Rick's actually got it yesterday.
ah, yeah.
Ma-
Have you heard that people are they're still criticizing Halo Infinite for not looking pretty enough?
Oh no.
It's like the thing is, it's like yeah, we know, but the thing is, we know the build was early. We don't know how early, but in some inside sources say January.
Yeah.
Which again, that would be fine. If it's January, that's exactly how I'd expect the game to look like at the start of the year. If that is also considering that, there's also every possibility that we saw that the trailer was from a later build, which looked even nicer, and that is still an older build than the current build. So my thoughts on that are that by the time that because now that the game works. Now that the game works and like all the mechanics are in and the story's in, probably, now they can literally spend that time making the game look as nice as they possibly can. Like, you know what I mean? Now, because I assume this guy is just blasting this horn over and over again. My hay fever's a little bad tonight, so if you hear me sniffling, the pollen count is not great at the moment. And it's like, you know, it's so funny because every time you sniffle, people will get nervous. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not the virus. It's yeah. It's like, no, it's not the virus. It's called having allergies.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. You can't go anywhere and have allergies at the minute. people think that you're dying. But basically, yeah. I think that what people need to bear in mind about game development is that they weren't ready to show us a finished version of the game because, shockingly, the game isn't finished. And that's because it's not release window yet. games, some games go right up to the wire for development. You know what I mean? Like they'll be still developing
Yeah.
stuff a week before the game ships, and that's fine as long as the finished product is good and it's fun. As long as it looks like a Halo game, plays like a Halo game, feels like a Halo game, then I'm not gonna complain. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like people are saying, well, the graphics, the graphics. I'm like, yeah, but again, the graphics are kind of the last thing that are developed properly.
Mm.
Like in a game development, usually the first things they develop are, get the core mechanics in, get the weapons to do the right thing, get the
Yeah.
gameplay down, and then they can make it look pretty afterwards. And it's like, a good example of that is when people were complaining, like, in the Halo 5 Guardians beta,
Yeah.
they said that the graphics weren't very good, or that the textures looked unfinished, and that's because they were unfinished. And then when the multiplayer launched, I mean, regardless of how you feel about Halo 5 as a game, it looked amazing. Like, graphically, it was extremely impressive. And I think that we need to remember that 343 made that game as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, so if you don't trust them to make the game look good, it's like, well, just look at their other work in terms of visuals, and it's like, well, why do the graphics look different? It's a different engine and a different art style. They wanted to go with the classic art style, and that's what everyone wanted. Because that's literally what everyone asked for.
Yeah.
They said, we want the classic art style back, so of course things are going to be a bit more vibrant and slightly less realistic. You know what I mean? Because the classic art style was very high, very much, they went full sci-fi. They didn't go kind of gritty sci-fi. It was just realistic. It was like, I say, your realistic looking Halo games are like Halo Reach. The ones that look more real are like Reach and 5 and 4 to an extent. There were people saying a lot about that game when I thought, I think that it's fair to criticize a game, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's fair to criticize an unfinished game. So like, it's like if a game isn't finished, then why bother criticizing it is the point I'm making. I mean, what did you think?
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, sure, we're both Halo fans here, but I don't. I think that I think they were making a massive deal about, oh, the graphics look like shit. I don't think they do. I think they just need some work. It doesn't look bad. It just doesn't look as good as 5 does yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's fine because the game wasn't finished. Like, how do we know that when the next show us a build, it might be the best looking Halo game to date, which it should be, really, but,
Yeah.
like, everyone who's been criticising it might go, holy you know what I mean? Yeah, everyone, like, the Halo fans are like, oh, I'm disappointed with how the game looks. I'm like, well, let them finish the game first. It's like there's people saying, oh, 343 should delay Halo Infinite for a year.
Hmm.
They should delay it for a year to make it look good. I'm like, you don't know that it's not going to look good yet. It's like, let them show us more. Give them the time. We've seen our first gameplay from an old build.
Yeah.
I just think people are very quick to criticise,
Yeah.
but they don't understand. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
this game has taken them 5 years to build a new engine from the ground up,
Yeah.
and it's like a little bit of patience with them to show us what this engine's capable of. I think would be appreciated, because I think that it's kind of unfair. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we don't even know what the finished game looks like. We know what the first gameplay recorded 6 months ago looks like. And for me, it still looks good enough. I'd still buy it.
Yeah.
I'd still play it. Hell, I'm playing 10-year-old games on Halo Master Chief Collection, and I'm still having a lot of fun.
I'd have a lot more fun with it if I had friends on Xbox who played it.
You see, that's why I'm saying we just gotta wait for Infinite. And we've only got a couple.
I also want to do MCC with friends as well.
Oh yeah.
Got to wait for cosplay for that as well.
I think Infinite will come first, because that's what 343 will be focusing on now. Like making sure Infinite's ready to go. But that's fine, because that means me and you can play Infinite in a couple of months' time. I'm looking forward to seeing the multiplayer. I think the multiplayer is going to blow us away.
Yeah.
I think the multiplayer is going to be like crazy good. I think the reason they've not shown us so far is that they know they've got something good, and they're kind of just like make them wait for it. Oh shit! That guy had a shotgun. But I honestly have faith in 343, because they have listened to the feedback. Like, they have listened. And
To be honest, I just think that cosplay should have come when MCC came out on PC.
Well, yeah, but it's like, it just depends. They might not have had the scope to do it at that time. Like they might have been, it might have been a case of, right, we've got to work on a PC port, we've got a deadline. What about crossplay? Well, they might not have had time to implement it.
Because when Infinite comes out, nobody's going to be playing MCC.
Well, it depends. If people are still hating on Infinite, they might just go back to MCC. Depends how salty people are.
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll play the first mission and say it's too easy.
They'll play. They'll go. Halo Infinite's terrible. The first mission's really slow. It's like, yeah, because the thing is, they want it.
It's the first mission. It's meant to drive. It's meant to get you pull you in, get you started.
Another thing that they want to do, and they've expressed this, is that they want people who've never played a Halo game to be able to play Infinite and understand what's going on. So that means there might be a little bit of explanation in the beginning about what's happening in the universe. What did Cortana do? What are
not about us experienced players need that. That's for newer players.
Yeah, and
we need that.
Yeah, exactly. But there will be newer players, because it's a new console. It's a platform game for a new console.
Yeah, but how many people are going to be able to afford the new console?
Or the PC, but then they can buy it on a PC as well. Do you know what I mean? And what I mean is there'll obviously be some time for them to explain. They'll still have to give people context just in case you're a new player, and that's fine. They'll probably make it so you can skip the sort of prologue, but people will complain that it's there, and I'm like, well, that's kind of like elitist in a way. Like, it's like if you've never played Halo, like hell, let's just say I jumped in, I'd never played Halo, and I'm jumping in at Infinite. If I'm fighting these Banished and this Harbinger, which they've mentioned, we don't know what the Harbinger is. We think it might be the Cortana faction. And I'm fighting this blue. I'm like, who's this blue bitch who wants to make humanity submit? Why does this like gorilla-looking dude want to kill me? Who's Atriox? What is it? Why am I on a ring world? You know what I mean? If you've never played Halo, then you're gonna have all these questions. Like, what is Atriox's will? What? And when it goes, when it's saying like however many days after we lost, it's like, what did we lose? Do you know if I'm a new player?
Yeah.
So they need to be able to offer an explanation, which is fine. Like, it's totally cool that they want to do that. And but if people criticize 3-4, I mean, I know you wouldn't. We just said like you don't need it, so just make it skippable. But it's like, you know, if people criticize for that, it's like, why? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, if you start going, oh, well, why do you need to tell players that? It's like, because what if you've never played Halo before, you know? It's like, I think we're going to be in for a really good game, and people are already sort of trying to talk the game down, but it's not here yet.
Yeah.
And my thoughts on it are, well, it's fine. If the game sucks when it comes out, it sucks. But I just genuinely do not believe it will. I think the game's going to be really good. They've taken the time to develop it. They've listened to the continued feedback of the player base. And I think that we need to remember that as players, we've asked them, we have asked for a lot. Do you know what I mean? Like, in terms of like the criticisms we had of the other Halo games, the fan base has actually asked for quite a bit of change. And I think that 343 have got to remember they've got a vision for this game, and they've got to somehow make their vision of the game and what the fans want work together. Because they can't just do everything. Because you can't just do everything the fans want. Because then that wouldn't be like fair on them, because they're paid to make games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think people are so quick to judge. And that's one thing I don't like about, if you like, one thing I don't like about the Halo community at the moment is that there's this kind of cynicism and that, oh, it's going to suck anyway. It's like, you don't know that. And people say 343 this, 343 that. It's like, what people forget is that 343 is made up of a lot of former Bungie members who worked on Halo.
Yeah.
Like Frank O'Connor, you know, people like Frank O'Connor and that, you know, they're working on these games. And like, you know, the people who worked on Combat Evolved, you know, some of them are still working on Halo. It's like, it's not a new team of players. It's still that a lot of the players that are a lot of the people that are working on this game are actually people who've been working on it since the beginning. But now they're part of a new studio with a new vision. And it's like, you know, you can't keep the gameplay the same. Because if the gameplay stays the same, you know what people are going to complain about? They're going to say it's boring.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine if every single Halo game had just basically been Halo 3 but with better graphics? Every time. Don't get me wrong, I love Halo 3. It's my favourite Halo game. However, if you did that, people would complain that the game's not... it's like, well, there's not enough... The game's not evolving. You know, there's no... You know, where the game's not doing this, the game's not doing that, and it's like... Well, you asked them for this, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, that's why I'm hoping that we see 343 not just give in to everything the fans say as well. Which I don't think they will. Like, people said take Sprint out the game, and they didn't. Which is good, in my opinion. Sprint is fine. Again, there's nothing wrong with Sprint. You are a Spartan. You should be able to run fast. It's like, if this game was called Terminator, then fine.
Yeah.
Or if this game was called Super Soldier Walking Simulator.
Which is what Halo 1 was.
Yeah, it's like, but you don't want that. Because it's like, one major complaint I had coming out of Halo 3, despite the fact it's my favourite Halo game, was the Spartans run okay, but I wish there was a way to get across the map faster without having to use a vehicle.
Man cannons.
Okay, yeah, but it's like, but you know, like, it's like I'd rather my Spartan be able to break into a sprint for a few seconds, you know, because it's good for having advanced movement is fine. It's like, as long as they don't start doing a kill streak AC 130 and stuff like that, you're fine. It's like people going, oh.
Or 25 kill streak Mac Blast at the end of the game.
I mean, to be fair, if they said you could get a Mac cannon for so many kills, I might be all right with that. But that's just because I'd like to see a Mac Blast. But at the same time, this is what frustrates me.